Okay, this building was on 3rd and Cascade, 3 blocks north of Main Street, near where the original Main Street was. When the train came in, it came in down along here, over here side of the museum, and it came in around 7th or 8th south. Then the railroad turned and went on up towards Olathe and Grand Junction. And so that's when the businesses that had just been started moved up to their present location, the railroad yards, for example. And this was 3 blocks north of our current Main Street. It was built in 1895 by William Deal. And there were several Deal brothers that had businesses in Montrose. And William Deal, that was here, was a blacksmith and sold different kinds of buggies, primarily Studebaker wagons though. And then his son became friends, of course, with Harry Dempsey, AKA Jack Dempsey, the heavyweight champion of the world, 1919 to 1923 or 4, something like that. So anyway, he trained in this very building here. And we got it on 3 trailers, all the nails pulled, fortunately, but on 3 trailers, and had to figure out how to put it all back together again. And so, well, let's go on inside here. Okay, as I stated, the building was built in 1892 by William Deal, and his son Charlie was best friends with Harry Dempsey, AKA Jack Dempsey. And they, around in 1912 to 1915 or so, they trained upstairs. They sparred up here in this building, and there was not a stairway inside this building. They put cleats, a ladder on the side of the wall, cleats on between the 2x4s to get up there. Later years they added a outside stairway, but of course Jack had already moved on. But Harry Dempsey's mother had a soup kitchen downtown near where the Historical Society Museum is downtown by the railroad tracks. That building's still there. And he would rub his hands with beef brine that he got there and in the meat markets to tighten the skin. And the brine will tighten skin. And he would chew pine pitch off the pine trees, and that is worse than taffy, and that really toughens your jaw. I suppose some of you hunting have chewed pine pitch. It can be really tasty, or it can be really not so tasty. But anyway, that's strengthened him. And his friend, this was downtown on 3rd and Cascade, like I said, downtown, 3 blocks north of Main Street. And 1 block south of this building where it stood downtown was a livery stable, and there was a shed out back that his friend and he built a 4-foot-high ceiling, and so they had to get down below 4 feet to practice. And think what that does to your back and your legs if you do it continuously over long periods of time. It strengthens your back. So anyway, Harry had one of his first fights here in Montrose in the Moose Lodge downtown, where Main and Townsend intersect, and they rented that and sparred Fred Woods, the liveryman's son, and Harry Dempsey. And then he had one of his first fights with the champion of the mining camps in that same building in 1915, late 1915. He'd fought the man down in Durango to a draw. And then these fighters would go around the country and make their money saying, well, you know, give us a couple of dollars, and if you beat me, we'll give you $100. And of course, they were never hardly ever beat. And so the champion of the mining camps came to town and was in the audience, and the referee said, the promoter said, would any of you like to fight this man? And Harry Dempsey stood up. He was just out of high school, and he was lanky, and he stood up and challenged the mining camp, the champion of the mining camps. And everybody roared with laughter till he got in the ring. Then they booed because he's going to get killed by that big guy. And the referee said, well, what do we call you? We'll call me Kid Dempsey. He was also known as Kid Blackie, the Manassas Mall. He was born in Manassas, Colorado. And so anyway, he goes 3 rounds and he knocks out Andy Malloy. And they say the audience in Montrose was like an open fly trap because their mouths were open in disbelief and awe. What just happened here? That kid knocked out the champion of the mining camps. And the referee held up his hand and said, the winner is, hey, what's your first name, kid? He said, it's Harry, no, it's Jack. From then on, he was Jack Dempsey. And his mentor was a 1890s fighter named Jack Dempsey that was a bare-fisted fighter that's kind of lost in history now. But anyway, that's kind of the story of his time here in Montrose. Of course, he got in a lot of trouble. He got in a lot of trouble, and he was quite a wild sort of adventurous guy that liked to do pranks and things like that in town. So there's a lot of folks that families remember some of those pranks to their family. So anyway, and we have a blacksmith that works in here when we have big school groups in here. And by the way, this instrument right here sizes the tires, the metal rims that are on the old wagon wheels. If they heat them in a bonfire, well, first they heat a small area, and then they can squeeze this, and it squeezes the tire so it'll fit easier on the wheel. And then they can do the same thing to stretch it if it's too small to fit on the wooden wheel. Then they would take up and do it they couldn't use a forge. They would have a big bonfire and they'd heat that rim, that tire, in the fire till as hot as they could get it. And then that allowed it to naturally stretch a little bit. And then they would put the wheel in it, and then they drop it in a big tub of water, and that steel would just bind right onto the wooden wheel. So that's what this instrument here did. So, okay, well, we can, unless you have some questions, we'll move along.